He is the former head of the Republican National Committee. How this guy was ever head of the RNC, I have no idea. He is not a Republican. He is a Democrat, maybe a moderate Democrat, but I don't even think so. I don't think he has any common sense whatsoever when it comes to this stuff. So Kevin Roberts is the head of the Heritage Foundation. He goes on MSNBC, and the host has Roberts and Michael Steele on, and I want to go through some of this interview with Roberts. Listen.
President Trump is going to make decisions about policy in his administration if he wins. Project 2025 is something that's going to transcend the next 4 years, the next 10 years. It really is, for the first time in the history of the conservative movement, the apparatus for policy and personnel. That's the most important thing to remember.
I have one follow-up. It's just that you have said that this plan is about institutionalizing Trumpism. So, because I also know you all, not just the president of the Heritage Foundation, you're also president of the Heritage Action, which is the political action committee. And so is it tied to Trump or not?
I said the context for that comment to the New York Times was that the work of the Heritage Foundation was to institutionalize Trumpism. Trumpism as a new version of conservatism, a conservatism that recognizes that by every objective measure, the United States is weaker in 2024 than it was in 1984. We also happen to think that's reversible, by the way. We're ultimately optimists. And by institutionalizing Trumpism, what we're saying is that even though we are known as Ronald Reagan's think tank, I'm a son of the Reagan Revolution, I'm very proud of that, that's 40 years ago, and we need to understand what time it is in America. And right now, Donald Trump, whether someone likes it or not, I happen to like it, is the standard bearer for conservatism.
Well, Michael, what?
So that is a great answer. Now, you're going to be triggering that woman. You could see her face. She looks at him. Trumpism. Can you imagine Trumpism being named on MSNBC? Now, I want to applaud Kevin Roberts for going on MSNBC. This is what I have told so many conservatives, that if we're going to go on cable news networks, you can go on RAV, you can go on Fox News, you can go on Newsmax, but for the most part, you're preaching to the choir. Now, it's important that we gather the information so all of us can spread this. You come on Stinchfield, I want you to get the information so you can take this and spread this to your friends at work and your family members and all of that. But if you really want to make a difference, you got to go on the CNNs. You got to go on the MSNBCs, the news nations of the world. You go spread the message there. Maybe you reach somebody. Maybe somebody wakes up when he's talking about Trumpism like this. So Roberts went on. I told you that Michael Steele engaged in a conversation with him about it. I'm going to cue this up here at about 3 minutes into this video. And let's play that here.
95% of them who give political contributions give them to the Democratic Party.
That's all right. So 95% who give political contributions to the Democratic Party is talking about career bureaucrats, those in civil service. And mind you, very difficult to fire anybody that has a government job. It's nearly impossible. The unions are dug in. They're not appointed positions. To fire someone like that is a real problem. So if you have problem employees, this is what makes the deep state very real. And now you're learning that 95% of them give to Democrats. Now, you can't fire somebody because they're a Democrat, but you can figure out ways to move them out of government if they're not fulfilling the mission that the Constitution wants us to fulfill. It's not republicanism. It's the Constitution of limited government. So, again, he was talking here about those employees that are giving to Democrats, and what do we do with them?
Et cetera.
They have, and 95% of them who give political contributions give them to the Democratic Party. I reject out of hand, Michael, that somehow
you're going to fire someone because they wrote a check to a Democratic candidate.
No, we're going to fire someone, and the number needs to be more than 50,000, considering that there are more than 2 million federal employees. Because over the last century, the radical left has seen the administrative state as the fourth branch of government. They're unelected bureaucrats. Nothing against your dad, obviously, as a human being. You know that about me and Heritage. But ultimately, we have to to devolve power from the imperial
But
city
you
of
would
Washington
fire
back
my
to the
dad
people.
because he wrote a check to a Democratic candidate without any appreciation or understanding where his political allegiance
We
or
will
alliances
dramatically
are. But why does
reform
that
agencies
matter?
that take
If
rights
they're doing
away
their
from
job,
people.
why does that matter?
They're doing their job about a mission that's misaligned. For example, the U.S. Department of Education. Thankfully, President Trump deserves credit for saying that he wants to end the Department of Education. That means that employees in that agency, even if they've been serving that mission with great competence, will have to go look for another job. What's more important than that, Michael, is that we actually have a delivery mechanism for education in this country that reflects the 21st century. So at Heritage, we see this a very different way. You want to look at it from the lens of unelected bureaucrats, most of whom, not your dad, I guess, who want to say that they are more important than the everyday American. We want to look at it from the standpoint of the everyday American and say it's time that they are put in the driver's seat rather than unelected bureaucrats.
Yeah, but they aren't going to be in the driver's seat because they aren't going to be doing the jobs. The folks you're identifying who are Trump aligned are the ones who are going to be coming in.
You are positing that those people are incompetent, and I can tell you
I'm
from
not.
looking at the
No,
resumes of the
you're
11,000 that they're very well
As
qualified.
much as you're thinking I'm positing these people are incompetent, you're positing that they're somehow executing a nefarious agenda.
Some of them are. Why does the Environmental Protection Agency have 350
Have you identified
armed
them?
agents?
If I could interject, because I did actually work for the federal government.
So that's a fascinating discussion, especially with a guy who calls himself a Republican, Michael Steele. Now, we say all politics are selfish politics. He's like, my father's a government employee. You're going to fire my father. You're going to fire my father. Well, your father's only going to get fired if he's engaging in politics in his job, whether he's at the EPA, whether he's at the IRS, whether he's in the FBI, whether he's at the Department of Education. If he's engaging in politics and not carrying out the specific mission of that agency, well, then, yeah, he's got to get fired. I'm sorry, but that's not what government is. Government is not a charitable organization that we just give people jobs out of charity because they're part of a political party. That seems to me what has happened foreign government. And I don't even know, do I want to play more of her? Now, she says she worked in federal government. I can tell you, she is going to be the example of somebody that we would want gone from federal government. This woman, and I don't even know who she is not going to be a woman we want carrying out the mission of America and trying to make it great again.
As did the chairman, and I worked with a number of those we call them civil servants in the United States government, people who are not political appointees, and they have the institutional knowledge.
If only they acted that way.
Well, I think Alicia has a question along those lines about one of the policy priorities that you all have identified in Project 2025.
I actually, Dr. Roberts, have a question about this upcoming election. Is your organization going to accept the results of the 2024 presidential election?
Oh, my God. Give me a break.